Then I have the pleasure to welcome you to the last panel conversation with the title How to Make Synergies Happen. Already in the former panel, a question that was raised, what can be done? And I think now we are going to dig even more into that topic. We have already today seen presentations of several relevant projects funded by the EA and Norway grants. But the desired synergies across funding schemes will not come about by themselves. In this session, we aim to explore the potential synergies between the missions and the EA grants, what can be done and which steps need to be taken next in order to make synergies happen. My name is Tom Espen Møller. I am a special advisor at the Research Council of Norway, and I will be the panel moderator for the conversation between the following panelists. First, here on my left side, Marnik Surgeon, Deputy Head of Unit, Common Missions and Partnership Service, DG Research and Innovation. Then Jörg Niehoff, Deputy Head of Unit, ERA, Spreading Excellence and Research Careers, also DG Research and Innovation. Then Adrian Courage. I'll use only your first name after this. You are Director of the Executive Agency for Higher Education, Research, Development and Innovation Funding in Romania. And then lastly, Ragna Fidjestøl, Managing Director at Financial Mechanism Office, EA and Norway Grants. A warm welcome to you all. We plan to structure the conversation within two main areas, and hope we will have time for it to cover both. But first we will go into the potential for better synergies and need for action, and then secondly on future perspectives. And for the first topic, potential for better synergies and need for action, I would like to start with you, Marnix. Since you are central in the coordination and further development of the missions. What are your reactions to the information presented here today and reflections on the potential of the results of the grants program? So please.
Okay, thank you. You can hear me because, yeah, the mic works. What are my reactions? I'm quite impressed actually by what I've seen today, both in this room and outside of the room as well, with our stories visual over there. I found that quite impressive. I mean, I think it's obvious that there is large potential for what we call synergies between this program and what we're doing in missions. But the first thing that I would want to say actually is that, or it's maybe a question to myself, if there is so much very clear and obvious potential for synergies, then why didn't I know about this program before I came here? I had never heard about it, never. I mean, my colleague Ada over there, who is Norwegian, all of a sudden sent me an email like, Orsted, Marnix, we're being invited to speak here. Are you interested? Is this and that program? And then we had a prep meeting, and I don't know who it was that asked me like, look, I mean, can you present your views on the potential of this program? And my immediate reaction was, I don't know the program. Tell me what the program is first, and then I can maybe. And without wanting to go into the details of the program, I think that shows one thing, is that if we want to create these synergies, well, all of us need to probably get out more often and get to know each other. And that is probably one of the answers then to how can we better formulate, use, exploit those synergies. I mean, I think that we need to communicate or spread the word better, all of us, on what we're doing. And that probably goes for the Commission in the first place. Maybe, I don't know, we are also sometimes a bit of a closed shop on what we do or what we would want to do and so on. So also here, I mean, we probably should have talked before to the people that are organizing the what is EEA plus Norway grant scheme. Other than that, I mean, I find it fascinating to see how a group of countries basically who are not EU member states set up their own program, a very substantial program. I was quite impressed by the amounts of funding that are being invested in here in this program. I mean, it's billions of euros. I think Philippe already referred to it, that, I mean, if you compare it to what we are doing or what we have available in missions, I mean, it is of the same order of magnitude, and that you're working with. So, I mean, in terms of additional leverage over what we are doing, well, there is clearly a potential for impact there. So probably this exists, and I'm sure that other similar initiatives at national level, regional level, and we're starting to find out about those, exist as well. So probably a first step is to make kind of a mapping of what exists. And I mean, I guess that this day and this event will already showcase that a bit. Then once we've done that, probably the next step is indeed getting these synergies into action. And I mean, we'll probably need some specific instruments for that. And if I now look at what we are planning and what we are doing, you will have read last year's communication on missions. You will have seen that one of the main challenges that we identify is indeed additional sources of funding. Because, I mean, we've very clearly seen that with Horizon Europe funding alone, you cannot make the missions a success. We need additional sources of funding. And then specifically also additional sources of public funding, so private and public. And this obviously goes into that bigger or under that bigger umbrella of additional sources of public funding. Now, how do we get them to work together? That is obviously a question that I guess we together should still explore. We are now developing a follow-up to last year's communication in terms of a more concrete action plan. And I mean, once that comes out, you will see that in there will be specific attention to building those bridges between the EU and other levels in general. I'm not only speaking about EEA, member state, whatever. No, in general, how do we bridge between missions and other contributors too? And that is probably the way we need to go to make all of this happen. I'll leave it at that, maybe.
Thank you, Marek. It was several takeaways here, but I noted we need to know each other better, and I think this is an excellent tool for doing that, actually. Turning over to you, Adrian, as the director of a research and innovation funding agency, you have extensive experiences from handling EEA and Norway grants projects. Parallel funding streams with similar objectives, missions, and geographic focus, widening issues. From your perspective, what could and should be continued or done better, differently? What ambition should we have? It's not working? I think the bottom.
No, not yet. Okay, super. Thank you. Yes, such a pleasure to be here, indeed. And the first two sessions were very, very rich. This first comment from you is also interesting. Yes, a funding agency. I'm a storyteller, and that's why trying to cover a little bit the diversity of different parallel programs, I will tell you two stories, and of course related with what has happened with the EA grants in Romania for the last 12 years, let's say, our experience. And but before this, definitely it was obvious, clear from the first session, we share the same challenges and the same problems. In a way, missing the agility in the programs, how they are built. I am on the side saying, okay, for us, it's so nice to talk about synergies, but the programs, we don't see any embedding capabilities for synergies in our programs. Many times we miss to talk about complementarities, not necessarily synergy. Maybe synergies are too complicated, but complementarities, they are a lot in our programs. And let's start with the first story. Maybe 8 years ago, one of the projects we funded in the EA grant context for research was a very, very innovative research project on cancer. Super. Nice results, good results. The group presented last year at the conference their results, but what's happened next? And it is about connecting programs. 2 years ago, they applied for a funding line covered by the resilience program, and they put together a nice, beautiful public and private partnership, and they won a project focused on mission on cancer. We call Center of Competence, and they are running this program very nicely now. 2 weeks ago, we had a deadline for Center of Excellences in Romania funded by national funds. And they apply again. Nobody knows if they will win for the because we are in the middle of the competition. But they got a project from funded by the grants. They apply for Center of Competence 5 times larger budget, and they now apply for a 5 times larger program, Center of Excellence on cancer research. And the initiative is also connected with 2 other amazing, beautiful projects funded by structural funds. One, it's about laser technology for treating cancer, and the second one is on genetics and genomics. And again, most of the projects are focused on cancer. We started for a seed we put years ago, and the group is moving up, is part of the whole development. I think such messages are very interesting and very good, because you put a seed and you see now a tree, and also fruits are there, very nice. And it is a message we have to share between us, being part of the program, but also talking with others about the potential of the EAA grants, research grants in our case. Second case study is something I like very much, and again it's about the way we put things together. Ovidio already said about Mission 100, our mirror mission hub, responding to the European Mission 100 climate neutral and smart cities. And the story is a little bit different, because we are working and we are doing a lot in the partnership program at the European level, and being active in driven urban transition and many others. 2 years ago, we applied in coordinating a large consortia. Capacity is the project, helping the mission to build the capacity, help with the intention to build capacity of the mission. Based on the projects we run at the European level, we decided, hey guys, what to do in Romania, because in a way we have to see dots together and to put all the information together for be able to understand different sources, different programs, different capabilities, complementarities, synergies. And 2 years ago, on this time, we decided, let's run for something nobody believes is possible, a mirror mission hub, we call it, M100. And of course, we benefited for a very strong political commitment in Romania, and our colleagues negotiated a lot with FMO here, and we have now a nice, beautiful, 2 nice, very beautiful projects funded by the EAA grants, and it's about building capacity in the country to put actors together and to see if it is possible to concentrate and make sense of different sources of funds you have. And now projects are at the beginning, and we expect, and soon the results, some of the results, they are going to be put in the capacity 2.0, the next program addressing the needs of the European Mission 100. So it is a rolling mechanism, and my message is capacity building that could come from, and it's coming from the EEA and Norway grants. It's huge. It's important to know each other's, and also for the next programming period, it's of value to act as a, let's say, as a catalyzer between different pieces of this beautiful puzzle. Sometimes pieces are spread or over the places in Europe, and I think the power of the program, one of the power of the program, is in this direction. Second, I do believe it's important the program addressing also the beauty of research and innovation challenges under the missions, to try to see if somehow, some way, the research program together with innovation program to make a nice, beautiful joint effort for addressing research and innovation challenges around missions. I stop here.
Thank you very much, Adrian. I think the two examples you give, I mean, to build capacity and get traction for those projects, it's a very good lesson to learn. Lesson learned, I think. Then we turn to you, Jörg. You are now playing a central role in the Commission's effort to spreading excellence. But you have also extensive experience with the coordination of national research policies and programs and European partnerships. So with your experience, widening policies and measures to intersect with the EEA and Norway grants, albeit in a different way than the missions. What are your thoughts about synergy potential and actions needed to realize it?
Yes, thank you. And I mean, I have a little bit of an advantage to Marnix because I learned a little bit earlier of the EA grants when we had the program committee meeting in February, but I didn't know much more before that either. I mean, for us, from a widening perspective, it is an interesting and very complementary element. I don't think we can talk about synergies here in that context because that it's not things that fit together in that sense and deliver on a coherent approach. But what we see is that you basically, as you just said, you build the capacity for applicants to apply to the framework program at a later stage. And that is something that is extremely important. We see that we see that the participation of widening countries in the framework program is improving. The gap is basically narrowing down, and for some countries, they are better than the old member states. But the constant complaint that we get from colleagues in the program committee, in the ERA forum, in ERAC, is that we are still talking about closed networks. So there's this difficulty of applicants to get into consortia, to be part of consortia. And so this capacity building function that you describe is extremely important. And this is something that with the widening part of the program, we can only support to a certain extent. We have cost on the other hand, where we bring people into networks and we see it works well there. We get good stories from cost that explain to us that with the efforts they put in particular on young research from the widening countries, they educate them and train them, and they see them ending up in framework program consortia. But it's only networking. The difference that you make with your grants, it's research projects. And that is something that we don't see in cost. We can't do it in the widening part of the framework program because we limit the research component if it's there to a very small part. So that I think is a very, very good element for us to see that you not only bring people into that network between your researchers and the widening countries, but you allow them to do research together. And that, of course, builds a capacity that's extremely important to go the next step into bigger projects, into other consortia. So therefore, I think for us, it was fascinating to see that in February. It was fascinating to see that today. And I think we just have to promote that a little bit more also under our clientele, because I think it's the knowledge of these programs is probably not that widespread. And I think there are a lot of people that are looking at our part of the program that are perhaps not aware of the possibilities under your grant. So I think if we can promote that a little bit more, I think we do a lot of good for potential applicants there.
Thank you very much, Jørgen. It's highlighting that, I mean, the unique feature of the EEA and Norway grants is, as you said, to combine research projects and networking, and by that building capacity. So that's something that we need to have in mind. Lastly, finally, turning over to you, Ragna, as the managing director of FMO. What is your assessment on how the EEA grants could learn from the missions? Can closer alignments be imagined for the future? What would it take? What would it potentially yield?
Thank you. I just want to start by clarifying the issue. When I say that our funds are small, we tend to compare ourselves with the structural funds. And then, of course, it's like 1% of the, if you add the RF, etc. But everything is relative. And when it comes to the not knowing us, our entry point into the commission is DG Regio, and we would love to have a broader contact across the different DGs. So if we can take this as an invite, we will happy to continue having dialogue with you. I'm still learning, but the way I understand the mission approach is that you try to find new ways of responding to complex challenges and seeing research integrated with other actors in society, and you have these clear and time-bound objectives. So I recognize very much the same philosophy in the way we are working, that we address what we call the common European challenges, but they are close to the missions, and we set our objectives and we work on result-based management. But of course, when this was developed in 2016, we didn't have the mission, so it's not framed that way. And also from hearing today, I don't think the issue is about adding bureaucracy and a lot of new procedures, but it's very much about aligning the objectives. And I also believe that if we are to take this very pressing issue seriously, we're talking about profound societal changes. We cannot continue working in silos with different funding schemes, because we are working towards the same common goods we try to produce. And we believe very strongly that we have to invest in the human capital, in trust in society and in science, and also to increase the legitimacy of science. The recent study from the World Economic Forum shows that about 50% in Europe do not trust what scientists say about the environment, and still 30% do not believe in man-made climate change. So this link between the different sectors, different segments of society, is something we can also bring to the table, because we have one contact point in each country, and then we have all these different programs where research is just one of the different sectors we are working in. So kind of connected dots there. And I also believe it's important to create a room for innovation, which means also taking more risks. And it's not easy always to connect research with business, with civil society, with local communities. We have had some good pilots in Poland. We had this call for idea labs, where you put people together in a room for a week and they have to come up with good ideas that then is taken forward by a researcher working together with the local communities. But I think what I take away from this day as well is, of course, that when we are now defining our new programs, and ultimately also when we are defining the calls, that we should really look at the missions and have a conversation with you, how we can connect this. And of course, as my colleague here says, a lot is happening already in the countries. And I can confirm that the way we look at, for instance, our research program is that it should be a stepping stone towards the larger EU funds, because we have had this discussion, why should we have bilateral research programs. When we also participate in Horizon Europe, but it is small, low-hanging funds for these countries. And then our hope is that this partnerships fund will continue with EU funding at a later stage. So it creates this capacity building you're talking about.
Thank you very much, Ragna. I note that we indeed should not working in silos. So that I think that's a message that can be shared by all here, and also the innovative aspect here, the methodology that you mentioned. It's quite interesting and maybe could be used also in other setting than the EEA and Norway grants. The time is running, but I would like to have one last question about the future, and it's aimed at all of you actually. And as we all know, the discussion about the next framework program for research and innovation, FP10, has already started, and several stakeholders call for a different approach to missions in the next MFF. One suggestion with considerable support is to anchor the missions above the level of FP10. Detaching the missions from the framework program would then allow more funding schemes to connect and integrate. What would be the impact of a different setup of missions in FP10 for the link with the EEA and Norway grants? Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I can go first if you want. I mean, that is of course quite a particular question. It's not about do you think it's a good idea, but what's the impact on? I mean, frankly speaking, I think wherever you put this instrument, the impact on this funding scheme should be limited. I mean, it is playing its role in what is a broader constellation of EU missions or EU mission-oriented policies, and it can continue to play that role wherever missions are located at the EU level. I mean, if you would want to shift the position of missions at the EU level, it's probably rather to make the operation at EU level easier and more efficient, rather than having an impact on what is, I'm not going to say below it, because that's a bit negative, that is outside of it, let's say, and that is trying to establish synergies with it. I mean, probably actually by putting it outside of a Horizon Europe constellation and putting it a bit higher could make the establishment of synergies easier, because it could lead, for instance, to more efficient linkages with structural funds, which could then, in a better way, link up with this kind of scheme. So, I mean, I don't see certainly not any negative implications of the change you suggest. Now, whether that is the change that we should be going for, that is a whole other discussion, of course, which I'm not going to go into now.
Perhaps if I may, I mean, for me, an important element for synergies is predictability. And at the time that the operational programs were drafted for this MFF, the missions had just started to emerge, but I think nobody at that point in time was able to make any commitments in their programs to support that. And as long as we remain predictable on the future of these missions, not the level they are pitched, but they continue to be supported, then I think that also plays a different role in the setup of the regional programs and how they can possibly support missions. I give you one example of our own remit. The only instrument where we see really strong synergies between ERDF and Horizon Europe are the teaming actions. These are actions where we basically get 50 million from the framework program under the condition that we get 50 million from ERDF or other funding sources to establish a new center of competence or modernize one. And I don't think we see very often that they are driven by the ambition to create something that is relevant for the mission. That could also, of course, be an approach of the regional authorities to say we want to push for filling certain gaps, but we see that happening even if it's not programmed. We have the example of Cyprus, that as an island has now for the first time a center of excellence, an institute for marine and maritime technology. They don't talk about this is supporting the oceans mission, but de facto it does. And I think that's also we have to understand to what extent the long-term planning of these pockets of excellence in the widening countries can be supported by your efforts from the EA grant and efforts from the other framework program in order to build simply the infrastructure to be able to participate not only in the research efforts, but also to get the impacts down at the regional level, because that's what you want in the end. Value for the citizens, value for the region, value for the government.
Thank you very much. Adrian, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I want to comment a bit. From my point of view, it's about policy coherence. It's not about where a program is located, it's about coherence in what we are doing. Again, missions are coming from mission-oriented research and innovation. So the focus is on research and innovation. This is actually the challenge. It is up to us and the idea of making coherent our policies to see reflected in regional policies in different kind of and different component of the Commission, from environment to the, I don't know what, from small and medium enterprises and so on in digital arena. All these things is about policy coherence. So from my personal point of view, moving from one place to a different place, it's it's unstopping craziness, let's say. Let's keep it as it where it is, and think smart at the policy consequences of the program. So regions, national, different kind of, and if you look at the coherence challenges, next is about synergies, complementarities, the way you put things together nationally, European policy coherence.
Any last comments, Ragnar?
Yes, I don't think on the substance that they would change anything, because there is a kind of policy coherence already with the green transition, etc. But it's about who has the ownership to this and who will be the interlocutor. And now, of course, it has been from our side, the Research Council in Norway has been in the driving seat when it comes to the grant to see these connections and together with you. Then, of course, if it becomes very big, who has done the driving force to make this happen? That's my question.
Exactly. But then I'm afraid that our time is out, but thank you very much for this rich discussion.